you all very much.
Thank you, panel. You are excused. Shannon, you are not excused. By the way, Shannon is a late entry here. You may know that Caton Bradar was scheduled to be one of our panel leaders, but she had a family emergency, so she's unable to be with us for the conference this year. So Shannon has taken over. You're a designated hitter, and by the way, that's okay, because designated hitters are now allowed in the Hall of Fame. Big Papi got in yesterday, and he was a designated hitter. So a great job, Shannon. You're doing terrific work with this. So just get ready for your second half of the Daily Double, your personal Daily Double. We're going to talk about international racing and ownership. And it is sponsored by the Breeders' Cup.
They come together from every corner of the globe in pursuit of the one reward that sets the special few apart: the title of World Champion. Don't miss racing's ultimate coronation. The Breeders' Cup World Championships at Keeneland. Tickets on sale now.
Yeah, the Breeders' Cup really went a long way in advancing worldwide racing. I mean, horses from time to time would come across from one continent to the other and compete, but that was unusual, and now it is absolutely commonplace. But this international business reminds me a little bit about Saratoga. It's an international destination now. Horses, we have trainers that have small stables. For instance, Joey O'Brien from Ireland has a few horses that are stabled here at Saratoga this year. So we do a lot, and it's continuing to advance this cross-continental competition. But once upon a time, I didn't, before I started working at NYRA, I didn't have to work for 3 weeks in August, so I would go over to Europe, and because you work at the racetrack, you're going to take your vacation at a racetrack. So I would go to Deauville in France and also Baden-Baden in Germany. And the similarities between those places and Saratoga are astonishing. They're all races that places that just basically they just run during August. It's where all the big and important yearling sales are at Deauville and Baden-Baden. All of those towns, both of those towns, have casinos right in the middle of town. We still have our casino, but it doesn't operate anymore. But that wasn't the case for 125 years. And the local hardware store turns into a high-end art dealer during the August racing season. But I was walking around Deauville just to talk about the similarities between Deauville, or Deauville as they call it over there. And so I'm walking around town, and I noticed this whole Saratoga Deauville vibe. And I turn the corner, and there is the Hotel de Saratoga. And then, where are we going out to dinner tonight? Oh, everybody goes to the same place after dinner here in Deauville. Ciro's. Not making that up. And by the way, each of those towns, they're spa towns. As a matter of fact, Baden-Baden means spa. Spa, there's a big spa at Deauville as well. And of course, this was originally a spa town. Enough about the similarities between Deauville and Saratoga. Let's get on with our panel here that Shannon is going to introduce for us.
Well, thoroughbred racing has blossomed into a truly international sport. We've got owners here who acquire horses from overseas, and we've got people who buy horses here to race overseas. It's getting smaller, the world's getting smaller, and we can view races on betting platforms and through different media outlets so that an owner doesn't have to be where the horse races to watch them and to enjoy that thrill of that race day. So this panel are speakers who are going to share some of the pros and cons of racing overseas and the impact of horses coming to the United States to race. And our first panelist is an industrialist, a businessman, art collector, and philanthropist, as well as a prominent thoroughbred owner. He has owned or co-owns several outstanding thoroughbreds, including 1984 Kentucky Derby and Belmont Stakes winner Swale, and most recently Sister Charlie. He races horses internationally, and his equine athlete Satsas, I wanted to talk to him beforehand to figure out how to say that, Satsas, won the Prix de l'Arc de Triomphe in 2020. So please give a warm welcome to Peter Brandt. Right over there. Thanks. Next up, he founded and is still a member of the board of LARC, which is the Latin American Racing Channel. It's the company that focuses on broadcasting rights to and from South America. He has been an advisor for international affairs to OSAF, the main South American organization that represents the area with the International Federation of Horse Racing Authorities. He was actually on a meeting with them at 7 o'clock this morning. And he owns and breeds thoroughbred horses in Argentina, Chile, and Uruguay. Please welcome Horacio Esposito. And finally, our next panelist is the Director of Racing and Industry Relations for Breeders' Cup Limited. She's responsible for the promotion and management of the Breeders' Cup Challenge Series and Dirt Dozen program in conjunction with recruiting horses for the World Championships. Please welcome Courtney Reed. And finally, the head of marketing at My Racehorse. She contributes to global marketing initiatives designed to create a consistent brand experience in new regions like Australia, the United Kingdom, and Ireland. And she assists during My Racehorse partnership discussions and the development of deals with events, tracks, and other partners. She also co-founded Grand Slam Social, a boutique social media agency that focuses on marketing strategies for horse racing and other equestrian brands. So please welcome Shona Rotundo. And we're going to get started with Courtney to talk about the Breeders' Cup's efforts to attract foreign horses. So Courtney, there are many international entrants in the Breeders' Cup, World Championships races. What efforts does the Breeders' Cup go to bring these horses here from different countries to race?
Well, hi everyone. I'm Courtney. Thanks for having me here today, Shannon. So Breeders' Cup has a year-round, a year-round recruitment program based on focused on having the best horses run in our races and the maximum starters in every race. So we have a Breeders' Cup Challenge Series program and a Dirt Dozen program, and we have runners come from all over the world that run in these races to prep for the Breeders' Cup, and then they come and have a great time. We put on a great party for everybody. Mr. Brandt knows about that. He's won a few Breeders' Cup races. And we have international liaisons that are located throughout the world that work on our behalf. And we visit lots of racetracks to meet with owners and trainers to recruit them to come run in our races.
Are there any countries in particular that you focus?
Yeah, so like I mentioned, we have the Breeders' Cup Challenge Series program. This is a program that has 82 races worldwide in 11 countries, including England, Ireland, France, Chile, Canada, Japan. So the races that we have in these countries give a free berth to each horse that wins a race, and they can come to the Breeders' Cup and get automatic starts and entry fees paid, and they the owners get to come, we give them hotel rooms and all that jazz, so they get to come have a fun time. And the recruiting actually begins years in advance, a lot of times, with laying the groundwork and creating relationships, building these relationships years and years. And, excuse me, eventually, sometimes we get owners who like to come experience the event for the first time without a runner, and they have such a great time, they come back with a runner the next year.
And we've talked about that earlier in some of the panels about the camaraderie and the fun you can have in racing. It's not just owning a horse.
Right.
And I enjoy it. I don't own a horse. So. How do you think other countries view the Breeders' Cup as a place to send their top horses?
I think that they love it. People love to participate in the Breeders' Cup races and more so win one. That's a big deal. So we think that recruiting horses in all these countries helps, with our brand, but also a country's really proud of one of their horses. Like Japan this year, we had two Japanese-based runners win Breeders' Cup races, and they had 7 starters. So Japan was very, very proud to have those international starters and then winners win our races.
Absolutely. So can anyone from any country nominate and enter their horse in the Breeders' Cup, or do you have to be invited?
Absolutely, yeah. So all Breeders' Cup races are non-invitational, meaning they're open to all thoroughbreds. And basically the only qualification is to be nominated to the Breeders' Cup. And if a horse happens to not be nominated, all they have to do is nominate before our pre-entry deadline, which is October 24th this year.
And you mentioned the 2 Japanese horses,
Yes.
Marche Lorraine and Love's Only You. Some might have seemed surprised that 2 horses from Japan won, except maybe their connections. Do you expect more participation from Japan and other countries because of that success? Do you think it's helped?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Japanese had an unbelievable year racing-wise. They won 2 of our races, and they went on to win 5 races on the Dubai World Cup card, which is unbelievable. So we have an international-based representative in Japan named Kate Hunter, and she works on our behalf year-round, and she recruits the horses that are running in our challenge races. She's over there on our behalf representing Breeders' Cup to present the trophy, and she speaks fluent Japanese, so she translates to them everything we need them to know when we're trying to get them to come run in our races. And we expect that we'll have a few horses from Japan this year after all the success they had last year.
Fantastic, thanks.
Yeah.
We're going to move over to Horatio. Welcome, thanks for being here. I know you've had a long day so far, so we're going to talk about racing in South America and especially Argentina. Can you give a brief overview of how racing is conducted in Argentina and some of the biggest stakeholders and the organizations that oversee and control racing?
Thank you, Shannon. Let me first to thank the Thoroughbred Owners and Breeding Association and the Jockey Club for this invitation. Your question looks like an easy one. It's very difficult to answer. Let me try to focus in what is happening in the Part 1 countries very briefly. Uruguay and Chile, they have an administration office that is regulated by the government, national government. In the case of Brazil and Peru, it's Ministry of Agriculture. In the case of Argentina, is similar to what happened in USA. Why? Because we have a federal country and every state or every province has their own regulation. This is the worst kind of administration for the horse industry right now in Argentina. Why? It's very difficult for the harmonization of rules, and it's very difficult to find who is responsible. It's a very, very bad organization, but it's what we have in Argentina. Every state has their own regulation, and we need to respect that.
So regulation in Argentina is very similar to here. How about ownership in Argentina? Is it similar, different from the US? Or?
No, it's similar than here, but what I can say, if you have in Argentina 76,000 registered owners. And at the same time, most of the owners has partners, and it's not like in another countries that they have syndicate and formal ones. Yeah, it's working in another way. So must be 76 plus 1 or 2 times. Yeah, works similar than here. It works similar to every country in the world. Yeah. The main problems is how they can obtain certain power to be in the right minutes to listen and to share decisions. So it's not easy. We have an association, like the Breeders' Association also, but the power of the regulators is states, and after that you have the racetrack that they are the ones who can decide with the states.
Do you find that are there a lot of owners who have racing operations in Argentina and the United States, or South America and the United States?
You will have from now more owners coming to the States. The first step were the breeders. You are starting to have, since years ago, important farms who are coming to the States. That means that they will work with their own farms in South America? No. The Argentinians, when they came here to buy a horse, is to compete in USA. When they came here to breed, is to breed with the rules here and to compete here. So you will not find a group or an owner who is trying to do it in both ways. Yeah.
So it's one or the other?
Yeah.
Pretty much, okay, interesting. So you have both turf and dirt racing in Argentina.
Sorry?
You have both turf and dirt racing. Do you have any idea of the percentage? And is there any synthetic racing or all-weather racing?
Argentina has, let's say, 15% on turf, the rest in dirt. But at the same time, you have one of the most prominent racetracks, is San Isidro racetrack, who has 64% on turf. And the most important races in Argentina are turf. Yeah, they are not in dirt. And we don't have any kind of synthetic surface. Yeah? So we depends in general, we depend of the rain also, because our season is the whole year. We don't stop. Every racetrack, we have 3 main tracks and 10 racetracks, smaller ones in the country. And the 3 main racetracks, they have the whole year season. So we depend also of the rain for the number of races in turf.
Okay. And some trainers visit South American countries to buy racehorses and bring them to the U.S., like we said, and you said from Argentina, they stay here. But many of those horses do quite well. Why do you think they do well? Well, I can have a different opinion what means quite well. For me, quite well is to win Grade 1s, okay? Black ties. The problem we have is the ammunition, is the quantity of horses competing outside our country. Argentina has a good quality of horses, yes, we have. Don't forget that since mainly 40 years ago, we started to buy stallions or to shuttle stallions from USA, to buy mares from this country, and we improve our quality. Of course, we also do it from Europe. But the number of horses who are competing outside our country is not a big number. So we need to do it very successful with the few we have them. Well, you mentioned the breeding, and a lot of stallions travel to the Southern Hemisphere and to Argentina and South American countries. Do you think that's had an influence? Are stallions going down there on the brood mares? This was, and it is since one of our best opportunity to improve the quality of our horses is to bring stallions from here or from Europe. The main problem for us is not the horse industry, are not the breeders, it's our country, it's the government, it's the policy of our national government. If you don't have the right one, that we don't have right now, a good government in Argentina, you have many obstacles, yeah, that we need to resolve before to bring a stallion. But what is happening now is normal, is the syndicate between the different breeders in Argentina to try to come here and to try to bring to send to Argentina a good one. Okay. And what about owners from South America who purchase horses here to race in South America? Although you said that doesn't really happen, so, but when they come here, are they looking at yearlings or 2-year-olds?
Yeah, it's
or?
happening. What is happening is South Americans are coming to USA, buy horses, and compete here. They don't bring these horses to South America. The few ones, they go to Argentina, they are very successful, but there are few ones. In general, when we came here, we buy, and we don't bring this horse to South America. So, the only ones we shuttle is the stallions, yeah, and the mares we can buy here inside. The Americans, no, they don't go. They buy, yes, they buy our horses. One of the main issues we have that we don't have enough horses is because the only ones who buy our horses, most of them are Americans. Argentinians are not bringing for themselves the horses to here. So it's because the economic situation there. But you will not have Americans owners buying in Argentina, and they will bring the horse here. They will not have the horse there to compete in Argentina, and it's a mistake.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We're going to turn to thoroughbred owner Peter Brandt. He's been very successful. We've mentioned that, and internationally here and here. Many top quality horses that you've bred, and I wanted to first congratulate you on your winning course record last weekend with In Italian. That's fantastic. Congratulations. So let's talk about the horses you race in the U.S. Many of those horses were born in Great Britain, like In Italian, or in France or Ireland or Germany, yet they become major stake winners here. Can you give us any idea of how you acquire these top horses?
How I buy them?
Well, how you acquire
not
them,
sell
how you decide. Yeah.
So we bought horses from all the countries that you've mentioned, including Argentina and Chile. We campaigned a filly called Wildcat that was in the Breeders' Cup, was second. And congratulations for getting the Japanese to come over there, because I was second in both those races. So other than the sporting side of it, I would have rather they not come. But those were great horses, and we lost by just a little bit, but it was a great day. Thank you for the introduction. It's a pleasure to be here today. We've always been interested in foreign horses, especially as the turf has, gained ground here and there's more turf racing. And naturally, there are great horses bred here for the turf, but since it's the main European surface, that breed is, especially good for the turf. And since they got a lot of their a lot of their blood comes from American stallions, from buying, sort of the best yearlings for 40 years and bringing them over to Europe, they have great stallions. So to me, I look at it as, turf or dirt, and I think you could get a good dirt horse over there too, but probably could get a better one here because that's our specialty. But in terms of turf, I think that, every country is pretty open because it is kind of an international surface. So I've been buying horses in France and England, and just really have specialized in doing that. And that really comes from the fact that when I was in horse racing 25 years ago, I was in it for about 20 years, and I had a lot of success coming from Europe at that time, buying the horses in Europe, and we produced two champions, Just a Game and Weah, that we were very successful here. And then I bought a mare over there that was Cheshire Oaks and Ribbonsdale winner that came over, and I bred her, and that mare was Line of Thunder, who was the dam of Thunder Gulch, who won the Kentucky Derby. So I'm not against grass horses to turn into dirt horses, because there's a perfect, that was a totally English family bred to Gulch and turned out to be Thunder Gulch, the Derby winner. So I am a big fan of looking for horses where, a good one a great trainer, Frank Whiteley, once told me a good one can come from anywhere, and I believe in that. So I'm, constantly looking for horses that I think excel in the country that they're in, and, and then bringing them here.
Well, and one thing that happens here is when a horse breaks its maiden impressively, offers come pouring in from trainers and owners that want to buy that horse for a substantial price. Is that similar? Do you do that overseas when a horse breaks? I mean, is that something that you do when you travel? Or when you buy overseas?
I have bought horses that have just broken their maiden impressively, but I'm not a real believer in that, because I think that the maiden races, running against horses that have never won before, and I like to see them, against better competition, so we can determine, whether they're a little bit special, and so but in every country, when a good horse comes up, I guess people pick up the telephone and try to buy the horse.
As owners, we hope so. Do you personally visit the countries when you're buying?
I've visited all of them. I mean, now it's much better because you have all these races televised, but I bought some of my first horses in France in the 70s and visited Chantilly and Sam, and I also race in England and France, so I go there to see the horses we have in training, and that's been working nicely for us, especially the homebreds. So I like it all.
And your horse, Sister Charlie, has won 10 Grade 1 races here in the United States, and she's earned more than $3.7 million. Yet she was born in Ireland, and her initial races were in France. How did you go about finding Sister Charlie, purchasing her, and bringing her to the U.S.?
Well, first of all, she won 7 Group 1 races, and sorry.
You do my own research.
And it's not easy to win 7 Group 1 races, and she won them in a period of 18 months. So that was really very special. I would say she's probably the best horse I've ever had. But we try to develop a network of people that look for us. I mean, once people start buying, then they know that you're interested and you're a buyer. So you get offered horses, but we have a group of people, and sort of one in every country that feed us with that information, and then I watch the races pretty regularly, and if I'm missing some, I come back and look at them and to see if I see anything that I think is special, and then some you can. The benefit in Europe is that you have a lot of independent owners there that, like if you see a nice horse, the chances of it being for sale are limited. So, because there are many people that just won't sell, and they're not interested in selling, and pretty much who they are. So, I think that it's always difficult buying a horse, but then you have the opportunity to get a horse there, and maybe as the horse gets older, it gets, it's the kind of pedigree and the kind of horse that's, there's, as they say, there's juice left in the lemon, and it's, you have to handicap it that way.
And how about my sister Nat? And I'll let you give her, raced 6 times in France, is what I have here. Ends up in the U.S., winning and placing in grading races, the Breeders' Cup Fillion, Mare Turf, and the Grade 2 Glens Falls, earning $1.1 million.
She was one of the horses that was second in the Breeders' Cup. But my sister Nat it was pretty obvious because she was Sister Charlie's sister, so that was like a no-brainer, for me. But Sister Charlie hadn't, she'd probably won Group 1 when we bought my sister Nat, and my sister Nat was a really, really nice horse, but it took her a while to acclimatize her. Some of these horses come over and they acclimatize shorter periods than others. And so I've had them where it's taken 1.5 years. I've had them where it's taken 4 months or 5 months. I mean, generally, when you bring the horses over here, if they're coming from another continent, you need some time to get them acclimatized. The change in feed, the change in shoeing, it's not easy, but a lot of times you'll bring them over and they'll really be good you bring them over for one race and they'll be really good that one race, but then maybe they'll bounce on the second and third race and then you'll have to give them time, or they'll get hurt.
And so in 2020, you won the Prix de l'Arc de Triomphe with Satsas. I hope I said that correctly. Tell us about it. How does it feel to win one of the most important races in Europe?
It was unbelievable. Unfortunately, because of COVID, I was at home with my wife, and we couldn't get into France at the time. So I watched it on television, but I made sure I put on my lucky cufflinks and everything like that. And
they worked.
Watched it. But it was fun, and it was a dream for me because it was probably the race that I most wanted to win in the world. And it's because it's not just against one crop of horses; it's against 4 crops of horses, and there's always really great horses in that race. And it's one of the purse is very good. The prestige of winning it, as a stallion is important, and it's just a great day in France. Unfortunately, I wasn't there.
What advice would you give to an owner who would like to acquire horses from international markets to race in the U.S.?
Well, I always think it's good if you're obviously going to buy a horse that you think is very good looking, or you're going to buy it subject to its looks. And I think if there's something there that's familiar to you, if you know the breeding and you know what kind of family they come from and what type of racing that family is committed to, then just the familiarity of it is an important step. Like for instance, I bought my sister Nat because of Sister Charlie, and I bought Sotsas because he's a brother to Sister Charlie. So it was really the belief in the one animal, the one horse that really got to that. But normally it's the race record, and sometimes you have to take less pedigree. You can't just have the whole package, and if you do have the whole package, it's very expensive. So there's no rules. It's just you have to be lucky, and you have to spend the time looking and not just go to the first horse. But it's great fun, and when they work out, I think that you definitely have a better chance than buying a yearling. That's fun too, but there are less success stories there than there are with a horse that's running.
Proven horse. Yeah. Well, thank you very much, Peter. And now we're going to go to Shona. And Shona, I think, has a presentation for us that she's going to share with us about My Racehorse.
I do. I brought some visuals so you don't have to just listen to me talk the whole time. I think they were going to pull the slides up on the screen. I don't know if you can see them yet, but there we go. So yeah, me and my girl Julie backstage, we're gonna take you through this together. First of all, thanks for having me. So great to be here. So I'm the head of marketing for a company called My Racehorse. It's owned by Experiential Squared. So that's the parent company, and the spirit of Experiential Squared is to really focus on democratizing ownership. So right now we focus on the racing industry, and that's what we're gonna talk about today. So Julie, you can hook it up with the next slide. Our mission is to give millions of fans an opportunity to own the best bloodstock in the world and really experience the thrill of being an owner. It's totally different from just going to the races as a fan. Once you're involved, not only to be able to kind of peel back the curtain and go behind the scenes and get more educated about how the industry works and how the trainers' operations are different from trainer to trainer, the journey of a yearling versus a 2-year-old versus a horse of racing age. But to win as an owner is just incredible. I mean, there's no feeling like it. I've owned horses for a long time. I grew up in show jumping and owned a couple racehorses that won. And I mean, I thought I had a pretty cool head about me, but I pretty much almost passed out in the winner's circle just from excitement. So we just want to spread that to everybody. It's an awesome feeling. All right, Julie. Cool, so My Racehorse key milestone, just kind of take you along in our journey. In 2018, we launched a beta version of the platform in California. And then in 2019, we took it national. So the delay in going from California to national was based pretty much on a lot of the regulatory hurdles that we had to go through with the SEC. So this is an SEC approved and sanctioned product, and we have to submit every horse to the SEC to then get approved. It's real ownership, real equity. Every horse is turned into its own LLC, and then shares in that company are what we're selling. So we launched nationally in 2019, and by 2020, we'd won the Kentucky Derby with Authentic. So we totally exploded, and it was incredible in the best way possible. Pretty much quickly, we realized that people who were coming in through the database were also interested in doing things that, going beyond the microshare product. So we launched Edge Racing, a syndicate in 2020, which is modeled a little bit more similar to what you'd see at like a West Point Thoroughbred or a Little Red Feather, where buy-ins are a little steeper. So you're looking at 5, 10, 15,000 versus the microshare product, which you can get involved in ownership for $100. So it's super affordable for anybody who wants to get involved. In 2021, we launched in Australia. So now we have My Racehorse Australia. We have about 20,000 owners there and around 40 horses now in that stable. And this year, we just soft launched in the UK and Ireland. And we're gonna really kind of push the button on that this fall. And plans in the future in 2023 are to move on to Canada and France. All right, Julie. So global ownership metrics since inception, I mean, our goal is really to get to 100,000 fractional owners by 2023. We're at about 75,000 registered users globally and 50,000 active. So we have a lot of work to do to get from that 50 to 100 active users, but we have some pretty exciting plans coming up. We're in the middle of a capital raise, goal to raise $10 million, and we're gonna use that to invest back in the company, the technology. I get to double my advertising spend, which I'm happy about, and I think it's gonna be a really big year in the next 12 to 18 months. So the global landscape, this is what's, I think, most interesting about My Racehorse is that we've had an opportunity to really navigate the nuances of racing and ownership in different markets. So in the US, we have over 100 horses. We've had great success here. In Australia, we're really starting to understand the product demand. So in Australia, they have big purses, and we found quickly that people were interested in the ready-to-race product. Like they didn't really want to buy yearlings and wait around to go to the races. It's a big social scene out there for owners. So going out to the races with your buddies, betting, it's all part of the experience. And you can win big money. So we had to focus on really finding those ready-to-race horses. One kind of cool story, we got a horse, his name is Milky Bar Kid. We imported him from New Zealand, brought him over to Australia, trained by Gay Waterhouse. And he had had one race before we found him. And he's won every time since. So that ownership group is just like, oh my God, this is the best experience ever. Obviously, as we know, it's not always that easy. But we've now, as we plan our bloodstock purchases in Australia, we now know we want to focus more on that ready-to-race kind of horse. In the UK and Ireland, purses are, they're lower, less, more modest there. So really the focus is on the bloodstock, because the quality of bloodstock out there is so amazing. So to be able to get the kind of horses that are bred out there is really cool for the racing fan. And the experience is huge. Like, it's all experience-led. So trying to partner with horses, or with trainers rather, that are like so coveted, like the top trainers out there, that's been a huge part of driving interest in the UK product. And then in the US, it's an interesting mix. We have definitely a healthy interest in yearlings, because I think in the US, people are, the best way to kind of make money is to find that needle in a haystack and really strike gold. And to do that, a lot of times, you have to really kiss a lot of frogs, so to speak. So getting into the yearling product, as Peter said, there's fewer success stories, but the one success story that you have could be super lucrative. So we have people really kind of going for that. They wanna make money. But then at the same time, we realized, okay, well, when you buy into a yearling, we have to entertain you for 2 years. Like, you're buying that yearling, we have to keep you engaged, keep you interested. If it's your first ownership experience, that's a tall order. Like, we're trying to educate you about ownership, bring you behind the scenes, really get you involved, even from the 2-year-old standpoint as well. When you get a horse as a 2-year-old, a lot of times, like when you import someone from overseas, they need a break. Same thing with 2-year-olds. They prep for the sales. Sometimes they just need a break. Kind of a cool story that just took place yesterday, actually, at Del Mar. We had a horse, his name is Straight No Chaser, trained by Dan Blacker. We got him at the 2-year-old sale last year, or no, at the Mid-Atlantic 2-year-old sale last year. And he just needed time. I mean, he got sore, little things, kind of just small hurdles that a lot of seasoned owners wouldn't think anything of. Like, it's disappointing, but you understand that your horse has to get turned out for, sometimes several months. We just really wanted to do what was right by the horse. So he had a long journey with owners. Like, they were just so close, so close, so close. And then a little thing would happen. Finally, he was ready. We put him in a race at Del Mar yesterday, and he won on debut impressively. And it was, I think, one of those moments that kind of when you're invested and you're waiting for so long for something to happen, when it finally does, they would have just been happy to see their horse race, but the fact that he won, it was like that much more exciting in the moment, because they had put so much time into this horse and really been on this journey with him. So I think kind of the nuances in the product are really interesting as you go from market to market. And Julie, if you hook me up with the next slide. All of that's to say that My Racehorse, our bloodstock purchases are driven by the user demand. Like, when we are going into a sale, it's me, the head of bloodstock, our CEO, our racing team, and we're all sitting there talking about, okay, what's going to be the most popular? What's going to create the best experience? What do people want? And interestingly enough, we get to talk about that on a global level. So, Julie, on the next slide, this is a good example of how we'll sometimes go into a sale looking for one thing. Like last fall, we went to Keeneland. We were just looking to kind of restock up on our yearling product that we would list for our US owners. And we found a Mendelssohn that we thought was just perfect for the UK launch. And we hadn't launched UK yet, but it just fit the bill so perfectly. Sent her out to John Gosden. She's been listed on the UK site now for our launch. And similarly at Arcana, just this past 2 months ago, we came across a filly that we were looking for the UK product as well. Ended up being what we thought was going to be a really good fit for Christophe Clement. So we imported her. She came over. She's by Cracksman. it's an awesome opportunity for us to educate American owners on European bloodstock and kind of get them involved in, different, understanding the kind of different types of horses that would maybe come from an Arcana sale. And then same with Tatter sales. We found a horse for Chad Brown that we brought over and put into our Chad Brown bundle. So the point is, we have a really cool global perspective where we're looking at opportunities to place these horses in various markets, and it's all sort of driven by what each market's preference is. And so it's a cool global kind of standpoint that we're looking at it from. Hopefully that wasn't too wordy and boring, but that's us.
No, thanks, we appreciate it.
Yeah.
It's a great concept, actually, so thank you. I have a question for the group. So from your experience, how does the United States stack up to other countries when it comes to owner hospitality? And where can we make improvements? I know this is it's becoming more important from racetracks from what I can see, and they have concierge services. And what do you think we need to do better, and how do we compare? We'll start with you, Shona.
So I think that I have the most experience with the U.S. since I haven't personally been part of any of our hospitality packages overseas. But I think that here, I would say the hardest part is like the track-by-track relationships. It's so varied, and I think that for us, we're building these experiences at scale. So being able to create an experience for people and say, it's not as simple as going to the head of horsemen's relations and saying, I have a horse running in this race, can I get 12 tickets instead of 8, right? We need hundreds of tickets. So we're actually kind of reinventing the wheel, and the positive reaction by our owners is really driven by how creative we can get with the racetracks to put an event together that can be just really unique and interesting. So for example, at Del Mar, we actually created a My Racehorse lounge. So there's an entire section of the track, and it was a part of the track that really wasn't used for much, and it doesn't overlook the track because any of these smaller tracks, any real estate that's track facing, they're using it. Like it's already been turned into hospitality. So we kind of took over this like back side that overlooks the plaza, turned it into the My Racehorse Lounge. We got big screens, we show racing, we show other sporting events, tables, couches, kind of a cool lounge experience. And we're able to fit, 100 people there. And then we have like grandstand seating to watch the races. So that's a good example of a track that really worked with us and can come up with like a new way to get a lot of people in there to experience the races, and a lot of them for the first time.
Great. Courtney?
I've actually been to the owner lounge at Del Mar, and it's really nice that they put that on for their owners there. At Breeders' Cup, we race 2 days a year, so we have a lot of time to come up with the best experience for owners possible. We provide travel stipends for their horses to get to the championships, $40,000 for an international horse, $10,000 for a horse shipping in outside of the host track, so that helps move the needle on shipping there. We provide owner hotels. We block off the best rooms at the nicest hotels in wherever the host track is located. This year we're at Keeneland, so we have several options for our owners. We have a welcome party the night before the event, 2 nights before, the Thursday night before the event. It's called Taste of the World. In 2015 at Keeneland, Tim McGraw was the surprise act, and this year we'll have a similar A-list act for all of our owners. And we provide we reserve the best seats in the house for the owners, and we just try to really make them feel special and hope they walk away wanting to come back the next year.
Horatio, do you have any opinions on owner hospitality?
Yeah, no, for me, the question must be how we can join owners from South America with owners from America, yeah, and the other. Why? Because I think it's very important for cultural reasons to try to know each other and to try, if we can sometimes, to get partnerships. At least for South American, it's very important if we can get a partner. In general, when they buy our horses, I sold one, an important one some years ago. I couldn't have 51, just 49, and was unique because in general they want to buy 100%. So you are part and you are not part. But I think the best way is to try to find through the associations, through people to get owners meeting owners from both hemispheres.
Maybe some of these groups in South America's next. What about you, Peter? What do you think about owner hospitality in the U.S.?
I think my experience has been good, you know, at all the tracks. I think certainly a place like Saratoga is one of the really great places to go racing in the world. It's a great tradition. It's more fair-like atmosphere. It's a wonderful place. I started going to the races when I was 15 years old, and I started in the grandstands, you know, just like trying to sneak into the racetrack because I liked the idea of betting on horses at that time, and that's how I first got, you know, interested. And the horses were like you know, baseball players or, you know, basketball players to me. They were the real stars, and you know, that's when horses like Kelso were running. And I think that I've always had a great time at the races. I think the New York Racing Association has really picked up their game. I think they're really trying to get better, and they're trying to, you know, the current management team is, you know, trying everything they can. And, you know, because I guess they're competing against, I mean, a place like Keeneland is also as good a place as you can go to the races, and they're very hospitable. And so I think it's a great sport, and you know, I think we can always improve in that regard. I mean, we can try to promote bringing people to the races and having more owners go to the races rather than just look at it on television. You know, it's a special thing. And I think to experience it in person is very important, and it's a great mix of people from all walks of life, and everybody's got the same focus, and that's on these horses. So I'm a great lover of coming to the races.
Do you have any advice, and this is kind of for all of you too, that you would give to U.S. owners if they would like to race internationally?
I would, I mean, I'm not inviting the competition, obviously, here, but I would say that if, you know, that if you should think about, you know, as my racehorse obviously went in that direction. And by the way, my brother-in-law owned part of one of those authentic partnerships, and he yelled and screamed louder than when I won the ARC. So he was.
I always say that the ownership stake might be micro, but the experience is not. I mean, you could own just a small piece and feel the same emotions. It's just super thrilling.
He let me know that he had the Derby winner. But you know, I think that it's a little bit more complicated to own horses in Europe, and you know, it's just you have to really associate with a bloodstock agent that you really think knows the turf there, and I think that, you know, you have to have a network of veterinarians, otherwise you have to send a vet from the United States, and it's more complicated, but I definitely think the experience of, you know, running in Europe is very, very special, and it's also special in that the, you know, the fans of horse racing there are many, and it's very enjoyable, and, you know, obviously going to a place like Royal Ascot, it doesn't even matter if you have a horse in that day. I mean, it's a very exciting thing to do. So I think they're all good.
Horatio, do you have any advice?
No, it's exactly the same. But in my case, I have horses and breed horses in 3 different South American countries, and I really enjoy more when I win outside my country. When I could win a Grade 1 in this country, for me was the dream, yeah? And I still having the dream to win the ARC someday. It's a dream. This is a question of passion and dreams. In the last 2 Dubai Cup, I was part of a horse. In the last Saudi Cup, I was part of a horse. Doesn't matter, came fifth. Doesn't matter the result. The experience is just amazing. You will not forget never more in your life. My son is here, and he knows very well that I see my trophies, and just I see the important ones. And so yes, if you can take the risk, of course you need to have the competitive horse, the right horse. If you don't have any important offer or proposal, do it, because it's a unique experience.
Thanks. And that might be a little more difficult for you, talking about racing internationally, and the Breeders' Cup does so much to bring people in. So I will say, what advice would you give an owner who would like to purchase racehorses internationally and bring here? Do you have any?
Yeah, I would say make sure the horse is Breeders' Cup nominated. And if it's not, we can figure out a way to get that done. But in all seriousness, if you all want to know if a horse is Breeders' Cup nominated, you can go onto our website, or feel free to reach out to me or any of the members of the Breeders' Cup racing staff, and we'll let you know.
Does anybody else have any advice for purchasing a horse overseas and bringing it here to race, or?
Yeah, so I think overall, I think this is a blanket statement for getting into ownership in any market. It's, I think, intimidating, so this is why we're all here, right? How do we make it easier for new owners to get involved? And so I think that's one of the things that's been so exciting to see about My Racehorse, because it makes the journey from from being a non-owner to becoming an owner really easy. You can do it all online. If you're buying the microshare product, there's not a lot of hoops to jump through. You just go in, click, and you're in, and you start to see kind of what the process is like. You can test it out, and then you can take the next step, whether it's going to a syndicate, and being interested in racing overseas. We're actually working really hard to figure out a way to buy some horses and list them in both markets. So right now, owners can only buy if they live in that market that we're offering the horse in, but a big challenge of My Racehorse is the regulatory hurdles with the SEC. So we're working on ways now, and hopefully in the next few months we'll be able to get a horse who's trained by Joseph O'Brien, that's out in the UK, that you can really follow that horse's journey, and then hopefully we'll just throw some awesome events in the UK and get people to travel over to Royal Ascot and be able to experience racing overseas, because it is so special and really, really cool.
We're just about out, so I think we're going to go ahead to our Q&A. Do you all have any questions for our